Welcome and welcome back, everybody. Tabletop Toki here, and today we're going to be doing a live stream ranking some different winter-themed board games that were selected by myself and y'all in the community. So I'm really excited to get into this. Winter-themed games are definitely something that I really enjoy. And so I'm excited to try this new format where we get to talk about games that maybe I don't usually typically get to talk about on the channel, whether they're multiplayer games or games that I don't get to play regularly or are new games that I've tried, like for monthly updates. So before we get started, I do want to say a huge shout out to our sponsor, Noble Knight Games. They are fantastic. If you see any games on this list that you are interested in trying out, feel free to click the link down in the description to see if they have copies, either new or used, at great prices. I believe right now they're also running a promotion for free international shipping. So for some of our folks that live not in the US, this may be the perfect time to grab some games from them for you. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in here to some of our first games. So the first one we have is called Artic, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up each one as we go over it just so we can see. Because as y'all know, Arctic, as y'all know, I'm not a board game wizard. I have not played every game known to man. Unfortunately, I'm working on it, but we're still not quite there. So there may be some of these games that I haven't played yet, which is why we have a want to try and also a don't want to try category. So let's see, Artic is one that I've seen, but I have not gotten to try yet. Got a 6.4 rating on BGG, and it says scan the snowy expanse of the Arctic, hoping to catch a glimpse of its inhabitants. So it looks like there's some decks construction, hand management, set collection, and then some things with the turn order. Okay, I really like the look of this game. It looks like we have art from Christine Elcou. I'm not sure if that's how that last name is pronounced, but let's take a look and see. So it looks like we're getting sets of different cards that might do different things based on the types of animals, and then the iconography at the top looks consistent or at least similar for each animal. So this is one that I have not tried. If any of y'all have tried it and have any thoughts on it, feel free to share those in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this after the live stream. I'm trying to see if there's anything else indicating, like, is there a board or anything like that, but it looks like it's just cards. So we have some tokens as well. It looks like we're drafting them from these different sections. So like I said, I really like the aesthetic of this one. I do really enjoy smaller card games, set collection. If there's some engine building, that looks great as well, although that wasn't one of the listed mechanics. I would say that for Artic, there's enough here to put it on the want to try section of the tier list for me. So that's where that's gonna live for now, unless I hear differently from y'all. Okay, the next game we have is called Artic Scavengers. And this is definitely one that I have played before. This is a deck building game, and I'm going to pull up the base game HQ Recon. This is the copy that I'm most familiar with. So essentially, it's 1 to 5 players, although I haven't tried the solo mode for it. You're going to be building a deck, using that to purchase resources, to scavenge for other resources. But one of the cool things about this one is that each round you're going to be vying versus your opponents for a special scavenger pile. So you can set aside certain cards for purchasing, or like medics to heal your deck, or scouts that can help you draw more cards. But each of the cards on the sides is also going to have some different abilities, including a strength. Let's see if I can get a picture. Yeah, including a strength for combat. So based on at the end of each round, everybody will have some cards face down that they pulled from their deck, and then they'll all reveal them, and then you'll compare strength with the other players for that special scavenger pile. So it's a really interesting one. It's a lot more interactive than maybe some other deck or bag builders that I've seen, just in the fact that, again, each round you have that direct competition for a specific deck resource that you can't get elsewhere, like purchasing from the general marketplace or anything like that. So I found this one to be really interesting. I think for some people that maybe gravitate towards deck builders, it's maybe a little bit of a miss because you do have to really read your opponents in terms of what they might be planning or how much they might allocate towards that scavenge pile, because you only know the number of cards, not necessarily their strengths or anything like that. But there are some cool combos as well on the cards with boosting other cards as too. So some of the cards can't be used for like the shovel icon on their own, but they can be played in conjunction with another card that has the shovel icon and add +1 or +2 to it. So I think there are some interesting combos, and like I said, I haven't seen that kind of bidding mechanic in most deck building games. I would definitely say this one's a solid B for me. I do really enjoy it. I like the theme. The box also comes, at least the HQ Recon one, comes with a really nice organizer that has all of the different units laid out in the box, which is super nice. So this is definitely one that if you like deck builders and you want something that's a little bit more interactive, I would definitely check out Artic Scavengers. All right, hello, thanks for joining live if you're here, very excited. The next one we have Frozen Expans, which is a Cartographers map pack, number 4 actually. And yes, Artic Scavengers you can usually find for a steal because it is quite inexpensive, especially with those 2 expansions even. Ooh, and let's see. Okay, stream is okay? All right. And yeah, in the chat, if you guys have any recommendations or thoughts about these games as they're coming up, please feel free to let me know, because like I said, there are some on here I played and there are some that I've never gotten to try. So back to Cartographers Frozen Expanse. This is, like I said, one of the map packs that you can get for Cartographers that features some unique different things going on. The main thing that we'll see here is it will have these pockets of frozen expanse. So on one side, I believe it's like one big ship, and on the other side, it might be 2 small ones. And essentially what you're trying to do is enclose that icy area so you can scavenge the shipwreck and get all of the coins that are in there. So similar to a mountain, but higher stakes because it's a larger section of your board, but you get a larger reward as well. And it also comes with, like many of the map packs, its own unique objectives. Y'all know that I absolutely love Cartographers, and I'm a little bit wary of like too much content for a game, but I think that these single map packs, oh, that's hard to say, really change things up just a little bit for each play. And honestly, with the number of times that I've played Cartographers, I definitely like that variety, adding in different skills, heroes, monsters, maps, you name it. So I really love this one. I think the Frozen Expanse pack is a really easy one to get to the table because, like I said, it doesn't change too much too drastically, but it has that new mechanic, which is nice to see. So I would definitely give this one an A. And hello. Yeah, if you have more winter themed games that you want to talk about, let me know. Hello. Oh, from Hungary. It must be so late there. Thanks for joining. All right, the next one on the list is, and I have to see if I can, Dwarf 7 Winter, but it's spelled a little strange. Dwarf 7 Winter? Let's see if I can find it. Nope. Okay, let me pull it up here. So this is a 2-player game. Okay, it's DWAR7S Winter. There we go. BGG is so specific with what you type in. Unless you put it exactly what it says, you will not find any results. So let's pull this one up. I've not played this one. Oh, and it's actually 1 to 4 players. Just kidding. I was under the impression that it was a 2-player game, but I think there's a Dwarf 7 Duel as well. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. So let's take a quick look and see. We have action points, area majority, and deck pack, and pool building. So a hand-building resource management game with tower defense elements in your gameplay. You want to get most victory points, but you have to survive, so it's semi-cooperative because you're working together to get through the winter. I like the idea of a tower defense board game. I'm not super huge on area control, but, oh, it looks like there are a lot of crazy minis that you can get for this one as well. I'm really curious about the tower defense element of things, and it looks like there's only the 1 central board, so that does intrigue me. I feel like if I were to get this one or play it, I would probably prefer it as a solo game, like me versus the game, versus semi-cooperative sometimes doesn't really land for me. So I'm curious if any of y'all have any insight on this one. I know it was one of the ones that was submitted by the community, but I really think that the idea of tower defense in a board game seems really interesting. That's not something that you see too often, but it is a genre of game that I like as far as video games go. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the want to try. Cartographers is too much work. What are you talking about? I really love drawing and writing. I know that that's not everybody's bag, but it's really good. 2 on this list are Arctic theme. Hey, listen, the Arctic also has winter, right? So, let's see. The next one is called Dead of Winter. This is probably one that everyone, or most everyone, is familiar with, but we'll pull it up just for consistency. So we have Dead of Winter, which is a crossroads game. There's also Long Night, War and Colonies, etc. So this is a similar semi-cooperative game where you have hidden roles. People are going to be going through and defending the camp together, scavenging for resources, while also trying to manage their own objectives and secret objectives. There will be some traitors potentially based on your player count. So they may have objectives that go against the pack, or they want the entire group to fail overall. So there are some interesting storytelling elements about this one. I've definitely had some plays that were very memorable where we really got into the role play of it. I remember one time my buddy, it was like 2 a.m. as well on like a board game marathon weekend. My buddy who had never played was just playing it off like he was super tired, and he was Jenny, I think. Like, I'm the mom of the group. Guys, we gotta just keep bringing in more survivors. We can't let them sit out in the cold. I'm gonna have to vote yes, because one of his objectives was that we like got overrun and that we had too many people and that we ran out of food. So he was definitely, you know, playing up the RP of being Jenny the mom, and that was his personality. So it went undetected by us, which was really sly of him. I would say that overall, this is a game that I feel like I have, by and large, kind of grown out of. I think it's one that I played a lot. It was in one of my original Amazon orders of games, along with like Steam Park and a couple other titles. And I think maybe 2-3 years ago, I've slowly been letting go of parts of Dead of Winter from my collections. I think I got rid of War and Colonies in the base game first, and then eventually I let go of Longest Night, which is a standalone expansion as well. So I would say that this game is like decent, good. If you like the RP of things, if you don't mind semi-co-op, it's fine. But for me, I think we're gonna put it as a C on the list, which I know might be a little blasphemous. Sorry. Oh, it looks like we're talking about some next ice cool games and things like that. Trick Shot. I need to find that one. All right, so next up we have Dicey Peak. All right, so this one is from designer Scott Alms, who y'all know I'm a huge fan of. It's got some dice rolling and push your luck, where you're going to be climbing up the different mountaintop. I'm just gonna, there's no beating around the bush here. I got this one on sale for, what was it? A Black Friday sale some years ago, and I thought, ooh, Scott Alms, ooh, wintry, okay, snowy ice theme game. Like, wow, that sounds great. But I don't know, push your luck is very hit or miss for me, and I think this game was the right level of depth of mechanics and also the right kind of length of game for a push your luck game, but it did not hit for me. I definitely didn't feel like there was the right amount of tension with re-rolling your dice, trying to conserve oxygen as you climb up the mountain. It was just an absolute no for me. So unfortunately, I think we are going to have our first F on the list, as in don't want it, don't want to hear about it, would not play it again. Even if somebody was really excited about it, I think I would have to say I'm going to sit that one out. So unfortunately, that's that for Dicey Peak. All right, we have the next game, which is Endless Winter. This is one that I have not played, but I know it got a bunch of buzz from Spiel a couple years ago. So let's do a little research. 1 to 4 players with area majority and influence, deck back, pool building, endgame bonuses, hand management, income, and 9 more mechanisms. Geez. The whole kitchen sink, worker placement, variable setup, turn order action. There's a lot going on here. So let's go back to the overview and see what we can see. Settle new lands for your population and build megaliths in an endless winter. For some reason, I had thought that this was a cooperative game, but maybe I'm thinking of another similarly themed wintry type of game that came out around the same time. Maybe one with a mammoth on the cover. Slight visions of that, but I'm not entirely sure. It's a Euro style game with worker placement and deck building. I do like that. I am a fan of games that have those two mechanics together, like June Imperium's really fun. The board, and we have a board, so it looks like there's some area majority or area influence or area control happening there as well. And the different cards that you're drafting, those are really cute components. I feel like this game is really expensive? Question mark. Maybe this is one of the reasons why I didn't necessarily want to try it out. I've heard very good things, but for some reason there was something about it that really turned me off. If I look, okay, well that's not helpful. Amazon, $350. Great, good. So it looks like probably a lot of Kickstarter content, and it's probably like a $60-some plus game MSRP. 32 bucks from Noble Knight. Hey, shout out, not bad. For that price, I definitely try it out. But like seeing these 47, 48 from other board game retailers and stuff like that, or the big Kickstarter prices, I think that's probably what scared me away. Because I do love Euro games. I do like these mechanics. The theme is cool. I do like the Miko's art, but depends on that price point. So I'm going to put this one on a tentative want to try. If the price is right, or if somebody has it that could, you know, help me out here, then I would definitely be down. Okay. So the next one is similar to a title that we've looked at, but this is Flick 'em Up Dead of Winter. So a cross between a dexterity game called Flick 'em Up, which is usually Western cowboy themed, but then this is the Dead of Winter crossover edition. I do have to say I haven't played the original Flick 'em Up, but I did find the Dead of Winter version very fun. It uses theme and a similar aesthetic to Dead of Winter, but more cartoony. However, this one, it's, like I said, a dexterity game. So you can play one versus all, you can play on teams, you can play fully cooperative. There are a lot of different modes that you can play, which I find to be really interesting. My most notable play of Dead of Winter, Flick 'em Up, or Flick 'em Up Dead of Winter, was the first time we played, we were on team versus team. It was 3 versus 3, and on one team was myself and my 2 friends who are very like game oriented, and the other team was comprised of 3 people who regularly play disc golf. So they have a lot of that hand-eye coordination, spatial reasoning, you know, like tossing, flicking, etc. So we lost horribly, but it was a really good time. One of the really cool things about Flick 'em Up Dead of Winter is, I'll see if I can find a picture of it, but there's actually a zombie tower, so it kind of works like a dice tower where you drop stuff down it, but instead, for this one, it's the zombies instead. I don't see a picture of the zombie tower, come on. Which is really fun because then the zombies kind of scatter, they can knock people over and kind of overrun the town. There it is. Yes. You put your little zombies up on top based on their positioning, and then when you pull it, they all fall down and like scatter out across the board or across the table. So this one was actually really fun. I know that not everybody's a fan of dexterity, but I would definitely say that this one would be like a solid B from me. So there's Flick 'em Up Dead of Winter. Okay, next one is Frosthaven. Again, probably a title that many of us are familiar with, but this one is the standalone like sequel to Gloomhaven. I have played Gloomhaven, but I have not played Frosthaven necessarily. However, I will say that I did enjoy Gloomhaven, even though I'm not a big fan of legacy games or campaign games. I think that the mechanics were sufficient versus maybe some other similar legacy style games of the same. And I definitely would be more interested, I think, in a digital version that's a little cleaner to set up and tear down. But essentially, this is, again, we're adventuring in the frozen north. So it could be winter there, guys. Just hear me out on that. In the capital city of White Oak. Got it. So I'm going to say, you know, while I did enjoy my few plays of Gloomhaven and the little bit that I did get into the campaign, while I do think that this would probably be a pretty good game, solo or otherwise, I don't necessarily think that it's one that I want to try. I have several friends who have copies of Frosthaven who have asked about getting into campaigns and things like that, but I think for my level of enjoyment of the game versus my willingness for commitment, I don't know. If it was like a standalone scenario just to try it out and see what it's like, maybe. But although, and like I said, although I'm sure that it's really a great system and a great game, it's not one that I'm personally interested in investing a lot of time and effort into. So yeah, don't have the time or hours in your life to play anything in the New Haven. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. A space is frozen too. Does that count? Yeah, but it's not like wintry, you know? So there we go. I will say though that like, yeah, Jaws of the Lion I heard is really good, but I did like Buttons and Bugs as well. That had like super quick setup, super quick teardown. I love the innovation that Joe Putfeld put into, you know, reusing the different character cards. So you don't have slot after slot after slot of different monsters and standees. You just have cubes that match their cards. So I think something like that is probably more up my alley, especially as far as time commitment goes. All right, this was another one suggested by the community. And yes, it's not technically winter themed. And yes, it's not even technically snow or ice themed, but there is a lot of snow art. And we decided that, you know, Russia and winter are basically the same thing, right? So let's put it on the list. We have the Fox Experiment, which is a 1-to-4 player or 6 with expansion roll and write game from Pandasaurus Games published it, as well as a few others. And in this game, essentially, you are trying to breed the most friendly pups with the best traits. So we have some examples of some of the, I almost said wolves, but some of the foxes that you can breed together, which will give you different dice combinations. And then let me see if I can find a picture of one of the foxes that you fill in. Yeah, so here's Boris. And based on the complete symbols that you have of those different colors of dice, you're going to fill in that fox's traits as well as its friendliness, which is what's up in that top corner there. I have to say that I was really hesitant about getting or trying this one. I was lucky enough that a friend had it, so I got to try it out first. I will say that mechanically, it's very messy. Like, it takes a long time to roll your dice, to count up your symbols, to manipulate everything, which gives it a little bit of weightiness, which is nice, but it feels more fiddly than strategic at times. And certainly if you're playing solo or with 2 players, you have to actually add in like AI, bot, whatever players, where you have to then mark off and like additional sheets and add additional dice and do all these extra things when it's already a lot of bookkeeping to keep track of your own foxes that you are producing each round and all of their individual traits, and then comparing those and keeping track of your science. So while I do actually really enjoy this game as an experience, I would say that mechanically it's not super solid. One of the things that did really sell me on it though and turn it around for me, as silly as this sounds, is the fact that you actually get to name your foxes. So I was listening kind of like, okay, this sounds all right, whatever. But then when I looked at the actual fox, and I was like, I said to my buddy, hey, what is this blank line here under, does that say name? Do I get to name all my foxes? So I was pretty excited about that. I did enjoy giving each fox a name and seeing kind of their little personalities. We didn't get into the RP further than that though, because it was actually a very not great historical event that this was based on. But overall, I will say that this one is probably a C, because I think mechanically it's probably a D, but I did enjoy it enough that it is one that I ended up purchasing and do enjoy playing it and showing it to people. So there's that one too. All right. Yeah, and similar to what some people are saying in the chat, the loop of it and the actual play of it is not as enjoyable as one would hope. Yeah. All right. So looking at our next game, we have Frostpunk, which I believe is based off of a video game, and this is a board game adaptation. So this is a city survival game where heat means life and every decision comes with a cost. So it's a cooperative game with a modular board, different campaign events. We have a cube tower. This one's a bit heftier, definitely like a bigger Kickstarter type of game. And I will say that cooperative games, again, campaign games, are not necessarily my bag. I think the amount of investment in this one is definitely one that turned me off, as well as the price. I do like the idea of kind of like a snowy, wintry, post-apocalyptic expanse, but I'm especially wary of board game adaptations of video games that aren't necessarily just taking the IP into a new direction that's like a solid board game, but rather trying to recreate the original video game. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't played it, either the video game nor the board game, but the impression that I got was that this was kind of in that realm of things. So I will say that although I'm sure, again, for people who invest into it and play through the campaign, it may be very fun. I don't have the patience to invest that much time into or focus like one game and then to play kind of the same game over and over again and to spend that much money and those kinds of things like that. So although it looks interesting, I will say this is not one that I'm very interested in trying. Okay. The next one that we have on the list is Hokkaido. While that's loading, I'm just going to catch up on the chat. This one counts as a winter theme game? Excellent. Perfect. All right. So we have Hokkaido here. So this one is based on a similar card drafting game called Honshu that has some bidding mechanics in it and tiling. So essentially each round you have your cards that you're going to bid with. They'll have the numbers in the top corner, and based on the cards that you reveal, you'll get to draft cards from a central pool and then lay them into your grid. They will be able to produce certain resources or have locations where you can sell resources, build villages, forests, etc. Hokkaido has a new mechanic, which are the mountains. So that's a new slot on the board or on your cards that you can utilize. And basically, if I remember correctly, it adds new scoring where you look at the two sides of your mountain ridge and you only score one based on certain things. To be honest, versus its original design Honshu that it's based off of, I did not prefer the mountain scoring. It didn't really add anything new that felt interesting. It just made the scoring more annoying to basically be playing the game kind of twice on both sides of your mountain range. And beyond that, one of the things that I was really upset with, at least with the copy that I received, was the fact that a lot of, and let's see if we can see it here, not so much, but the image resolution of the actual little cities and landscapes was very high quality, but the resolution of the little production space stickers like this were very blurry in comparison. I'm not sure if that was an issue with a lot of printings or a certain publisher, or maybe I just got like a really messed up version somehow, but that really irked me. So on top of that and the mountains, which felt annoying for scoring, I ended up selling this one, even though it does have like snowy winter theme, which I love. I was so excited for that, but unfortunately this one was a pass for me. So for that reason, I would probably put it on a C if it weren't for the graphic issue, but because there was one, I'm gonna put it on D, at least for my specific copy that I had played. All right, and I think I saw this one in the chat earlier. Someone had mentioned, hey, that's my fish. So this one's about penguins, question mark. I haven't played it, but it's grid movement, map reduction, modular board, variable setup. Okay, so it looks like we have our penguins here, and you want to catch as many fish as possible with their waddle of penguins. Is that what a group of penguins is called? Is it called a waddle? Is that for real? I'm a little confused here. Okay. Interesting. All right, I'm not sure. Can somebody look that up, or can somebody enlighten us? Because I'm really waddle. Okay, but anyway, when a penguin can't move, it's removed from play with its owner claiming the tile in which it scans. Whoever collects the most fish wins. Interesting. Okay, so you're moving around the board collecting fish. Oh wow, are those the official components? Can anybody back us up here? That's quite interesting, those little standees. I'm really not sure about this one. I think it sounds like an interesting concept. I know that it looks like they have a new edition, or there are many different editions, but I think there is a new edition. It looks like from Next Move Games, perhaps. That might be released sometime soon. We have potentially some cheap editions. I would be interested in seeing what the components look like for the new edition and what that shakes out to be. I would say at this point in time, I'm not necessarily drawn in. The new art, a new cover, does intrigue me a bit, but I don't know that it's enough for me to want to try it. But yeah, if you think it fits, you want to add a nice cuppa. I don't know if that one really fits. And I've definitely talked about that one on the channel. A group of penguins is called a waddle, raft, colony, rookery, or huddle. What? Can they not make up their minds? Tuxedo? Okay, that's kind of cute though. That's what the internet is saying. All right, well, there is that. Okay, next up, we have Imperial Assault from Star Wars, and is it specifically Return to Hoth was the one that was submitted. So we have a wintry, snowy expanse again here, and this is a 2 to 5 player game, dice rolling, grid movement, modular board, role playing, team based game. Oh, it's a team based game. Interesting. So we have the Rebels based on Hoth, discovered by the Empire. Okay, interesting. So this is an expansion for Imperial Assault. To be fair, I have not played Imperial Assault. I have not played this expansion. So I'm not exactly sure. It looks like there are teams you're traveling through, and there's dice rolling. Okay, let's take a look at the cards. Maybe I'll get this more. So lots of information, definitely a chunkier game for sure. So I would say, yeah, very involved looking game. Toxic what? I didn't choose all these games, to be fair. So we decided as a community that this was all fair play. I will say I am not the biggest Star Wars fan. I've heard good things about Imperial Assault, and supposedly this expansion is good and fun and has a cool theme. I would say that based on what I'm seeing here, there's nothing that really stands out to me for my sensibilities. It's a dungeon crawler. Gotcha. Yeah. I think there are a lot of dungeon crawlers that I would prefer to play in terms of complexity and theme. So while it may be a good game, this isn't necessarily one that I'm interested in trying. All right. And next up, we have Ice Cool. I think a lot of people were mentioning this one in the chat. I have not played this one, even though I would love to. It is a dexterity game where you have your little penguins. You're going to be flicking them around the iced over school. So it looks like you can get them into different rooms, do trick shots, etc. This looks like a really fun one. I've heard really good things about it. I've just never been in the same room as a copy to be able to try it out, nor purchased one, but I think that I definitely will at some point, hopefully. Yeah, flip penguins to try to catch fish without getting caught by the hall monitor. Oh, there's a hall monitor. I did not know that. It's 2 to 4 players. I'm curious if there's like an unofficial solo mode or anything like that. But I've heard that this one is a really great game, so I'm going to definitely put this in the want to try list. Okay, the next one I also saw someone mention in the chat is called Ice. And this is another one that I have not gotten to play. Do we look at first edition or second edition? Let's maybe try second edition. Okay, 1 to 5 players. And it's got action points, modular board, worker placement, different worker types. And we're leading a team of archaeologists digging through the ice in search of powerful artifacts. That sounds very intriguing. I do like the cover. I think it's very well illustrated. Leonard Dupont. In this frozen world left by blizzards, we cling to life. There's 3D tile mining and collection. Oh, I think I remember this is the one where you actually have the like levels of tiles. Let's see. So we have our little meeples. Oh, those are really cute. Oh gosh. And they have variable powers as well. So it looks like you have a special meeple and then some generic kind of workers. Okay, and that's just some art. I'm looking for the actual tiles themselves and the board. So it looks like it goes together, and yeah, you have different levels on the board that you can dig down into. It looks like we're going to be removing them and placing them like on your faction board. Interesting. So I'd be really interested to see more about this one. I think I did read as well, at least on the original page of not second edition, that it had a Mancala. Yeah, it says Mancala mechanism in the first edition stuff, but not the second. So is there Mancala? Because if there is, I really would like to try that. I'm a big fan of Mancala mechanics. So that being the case, and based on what I'm seeing here, I'm really intrigued about learning more and playing it. So I'm going to put that in the want to try category. Okay. Next up, we have Ice Duo. This is from the Pyramid Arcade Collection. So it's a 2-player abstract game. It actually comes with components to play 2 different games, which are Ice Dice and Twin Win. So I did pick this one up. I think it was at our board game auction. Was that the one I did a full blog on? I think so. I'll have to add a card in later if that's the case. But essentially you have your little pyramids and your board. For Ice Dice, you're going to be rolling the dice and trying to get different symbols in order to configure your pyramid. And then Twin Win was something similar where you have these like little configurations that you're trying to build based on whatchamacallit, based on the cards that you draw, so your personal objectives. I really like the idea of using minimal components to play different games. I also have Martian chess as well, which was one of my first Pyramid Arcade games that I got to try. I really enjoyed Martian chess, so I was very hopeful about Ice Duo, especially having the winter theme for one of the 2 games at least. However, I was pretty disappointed in the gameplay. It felt very random and very, I don't know, surface level. There wasn't a lot of depth to it. I know that sometimes abstract games will have like layers to them where the rules are really simple, but then the strategy is very deep. But I did not get that with Ice Dice nor Twin Win, so I ended up selling it pretty much right away. So there's that one. For Ice Duo, I think unfortunately we're going to have to put it as a D for me, because like I said, although I appreciate the idea of having minimal components to play multiple games, this one was really a pass. It was just very random. But yeah, there's that. And hey, to new friends who just joined. Hey, Chrissy again, thanks for joining. So there's those, and let's see. We're gonna look ahead to this next one, which is called Igloo Pop, I believe. Okay. So this one says it's a mad dash to shake igloos correctly and guess how many beads are hiding inside. So this one, I've seen it's an oral game, which I haven't heard of too many. I think there's like one spooky theme game where you shake a house. This one, you have this little igloo and you're trying to shake it to determine how many components are inside. I remember hearing about this one in a Dice Tower review that Z Garcia did forever ago, and I was just intrigued by the idea of a listening game. I think that's really pretty much most of what the game is, betting and bluffing and simultaneous action selection. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on here. And it is an older game, so I think it's definitely very out of print. But this is one, yeah, the art looks slightly problematic for sure. When did it come out? 2003? That wasn't that long ago. I think based on the mechanics alone, I would be interested in trying it out for a listening type game. Okay, the next one we have is K2, moving right along. So we have compete to reach the top in an extremely dangerous Himalayan peak. It's 1 to 5 players. Somebody mentioned this in the chat before, so if y'all have played this one, this is not one that I've played, and I would love to hear your insights. So let's see. You control a team of 2 mountaineers trying to get to the summit and return. Okay, so it looks like a similar kind of push your luck kind of there with the timing of the game. And we have player elimination, point movement, simultaneous. Willie, what are your thoughts on this one? Because I have not played it. I don't know a lot about it. I think in my mind it was so similar in theme and thanks to Dicey Peak, and I had such a negative reaction to that one that I've just avoided anything about K2 mistakenly. Excellent and tense. It's really good as it is as the sister game The Cave. Ooh, that sounds interesting too. For some reason, getting down into a cave seems more appealing to me than climbing a mountain, even though it's got snow and winter vibes, which I'm really into. But like The Cave, that sounds good too. So I would say this one doesn't necessarily appeal to me, but based on what I'm seeing in the chat, not your cup of tea, but worth a try. Okay, so I'm gonna say I would want to try this one. I don't know that I would buy it based on my own preferences, but it sounds like it's interesting enough or enough of the community enjoys it that I definitely would want to try it out if somebody has a copy available. Hey from Australia. Is it morning there? I'm not sure. Good morning if it's morning or whatever time of day it might be. And I like the idea of having the team of 2 people. Thanks for pointing that out, Willie. That sounds much more interesting than just having 1 meeple going up and down. So that's K2. And then next we have Klondike. This is another one that was suggested by the community that I haven't played. It says roll for gold in a dice placement game. So it's got dice rolling, income, and push your luck. So it's an easy to learn game of strategy and luck. Compete for gold, but beware. You don't want to set up your opponents for success. Okay. I do really like the box art. I think that that's very nice. And it looks like you're just rolling and then setting them into these tracks. So I would assume it's something like a Yahtzee kind of mechanic. And the rules look very simple. I'd be curious to know too if anybody's tried this one. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on. So I feel like it would either be like a hit or a miss, but it looks easy enough and like affordable enough that if I were to try it out, oh, it says 20 to 60 minutes though. Oh, I don't know about that. And it's 2 to 6 players. Now that I'm seeing 60 minutes, I don't know that I would want, that I'm intrigued enough to invest up to 60 minutes playing this one. And I'm wondering why the playtime is so variable. Even though the play count is very variable, I'm a little confused by that. That seems very unfocused for a game with very easy rules. So I'm maybe gonna put this one in the don't want to try just for that. That's a little bit of a turn off for me. So there's that. All right. The next one, y'all are gonna get on my case about this too, because this is for you, Toxic. This one's an Artic game called Meow Men. I talked about this one in my Japan unboxing stream way ago. So show off your cute little cats in a game of survival and horror. Your girl made the BGG page for this one. So basically, you have your Meow Mens or your Meow Men who are working together to repair their snowmobile and their communication device. So you're playing cards from low to high or high to low. But there are going to be assassins in the group that are going to try to mess with that and get your cards out of order so that you cannot escape from the Artic. It is a very interesting game for sure. And there's some quite interesting arts. Yeah, it's a fun one for sure. I wouldn't say, and it's difficult to say because, yeah, nobody's added anything for it. It's difficult to say because there are definitely some challenges with the rules translation. So I'm not entirely sure that we were playing it correct, but we played it as correctly as we could, and we had a fun time with it. It's not the most in-depth game or anything like that, but I thought as far as hidden role cooperative games go, it was really quick and to the point. If you like games like The Mind or Hanabi, things like that where you're working together to get cards in a certain order and play them cooperatively, I think that this one is definitely worth checking out if you ever get to. It's certainly unique. So I'm going to put this one probably as a solid C. Again, not the greatest game mechanically, but a really cool theme and fun time and fun art. All right. Let's see. So we have the next one. Again, I don't know if it's winter, but we'll find out. There's definitely a lot of ice and snow in this game. So we have Revive. Ooh, Ice Cool gave it to niece and nephew. I'm seeing a lot of love for Ice Cool. I'm really excited to try it out, hopefully soon. Okay, so Revive, if y'all don't know, I have talked about this one a little bit on the channel, but since somebody brought it up in the community, I could not resist putting it on the list. Basically, you're going to a planet that has frozen over and exploring it, trying to revive the Earth by melting down the snow and ice in order to turn the Expans into something that's more inhabitable. It has like deck building, engine building, resource management, all of the above, like multiple levels of engine building. I talked about this one in my end of the year best games of the year list a little bit more in depth because it was one of my most played games of last year. And I definitely think if you like chunkier Euro style games, it's really one that you have to check out. I put off checking it out for quite a while just because it looked a little bit overly complex. However, I will say that it feels very streamlined, and all of the different elements work together so seamlessly. You get to set up so many cool combos. So this is like a high priority must try from me for sure. Bye, Ken. Thanks for joining. So if you haven't tried Revive already, if I haven't convinced you yet, let this be your wake-up call. All right, awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it, Toxic. And ladies and gentlemen, we have our first S on the list, Revive. One of the best games I played last year for sure. I'm very excited too because the Abyss expansion that came out adds just enough more without making it too overly complex. So I'm really excited to delve more into that and play more of this game because it is just absolutely a spectacular game. Big shout out to Oporta. They do fantastic work. Okay, the next game is called Rescue Polar Bears, Data and Temperature. Revive above Ice Cool. Hey, this is my list. Oh, speaking of, if you agree, disagree, or just want to see where you would put the games, I did put a link down in the description so you can actually rank the games yourself. And I believe there's a function. I have to try it because I haven't done it specifically through this site, but there is a function where I created this as a public list so we can actually view community rankings for the game after the fact. So if you don't agree with some of the rankings that I've done, be sure to click that link, rank them yourself, and then we can compile everybody's ranks together, I think, in order to see where the games ended up. So I'm really excited to try that feature if it works the way that I think it does. That would be really cool. But moving back to Rescue Polar Bears, Data and Temperature, This is another game that's based in a snowy expanse in the Arctic. Essentially, you are driving around on your boats trying to maintain the ice and rescue polar bears as the ice caps shrink and grow smaller and smaller. So we have your little boats that you're going to go around on, and you're also collecting these data points to measure temperature, which will help you navigate through and manage the ice melting throughout the game. The big funny part about this one, or the inside joke about this one, is definitely like when I played it at a full 4-player count, we definitely had 2 people playing data and temperature, which is the actual point of the game and how you win, and 2 people playing rescue polar bears who were just playing with the little bears, which I can't blame them because look how cute they are. However, this one had quite a bit going on for a cooperative game with like full transparency where everybody has all the same information. I think that a lot of cooperative games that are open hand or, you know, that don't have hidden information, they tend to be kind of a miss for me with a lot of game groups because there's usually not quite enough going on to where everybody can have like a balanced role or a specific role or feel like they can really contribute at the same level based on whatever level of experience they have with board gaming or a specific game. But I think with this one, because there are those elements of the data and temperature side of things and also the rescuing polar bear side of things, there was enough going on, surprisingly, even though it's not a particularly heavy game, to make it viable to play at 1, 2, 3, or even 4 players, even for me, because I know that I'm specifically sensitive to that. So do you drive a boat or steer a boat? Oh gosh, y'all are asking the hard questions here. But yeah, Rescue Polar Bears is definitely a really good time. I would give it a solid B for me as far as cooperative games go. Okay. All right, next up, we have a classic that had an anniversary edition, which had Snowy Update. So this is Stone Age, specifically the anniversary edition. Prior to this game coming out, I don't think I had ever pre-ordered a game. That doesn't really work with my brain in terms of how I process things and my level of patience. But Stone Age definitely shows its age a little bit, but I think it's still a pretty fun game. I played it quite a bit on Board Game Arena, and so when they announced the anniversary edition with like the winter snowy art, I was really excited for that. So basically, if you're not familiar with Stone Age, there's dice rolling and worker placement are the 2 primary mechanics, and resource management, where you're collecting different resources to build huts, in this case igloos as well, or to contribute to boats, which are like some of them have scoring, some of them have different like I said, end game scoring, tools, resources, etc., that you can get throughout the game. And also getting enough food to feed your people so that they don't starve each season. So yeah, there are definitely, some things about it that are not as polished as some newer worker placement games go. And I believe the original Stone Age came out in 2008. Is that correct? That makes sense. If 2018 is the 10-year anniversary, right? Yeah, came out in 2008. So I will say there are quite a few games that came out around the same time that really have held up and some that have definitely not. I will say that based on that alone, Stone Age, and specifically the winter version, does add some different like winter animals and igloos and things like that you can build in with some mini expansions. So it's not just a direct reprint with new art, it's actually got some little elements to add in there. I will say that compared to other worker placement games that have come out now, it's not the top of the top, but it's really firmly kind of held its place over the past decade. And it's definitely something that I really enjoy playing either on Board Game Arena or in person. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a B. Okay. The next one, I'm not sure if this one is winter or even snow, but it was brought up and it's a game I'm curious about. So we'll put it on here. Oh, it does look kind of snowy. All right, we'll go with that. That gets a pass. So we have Summit, the board game. So this is cooperative, competitive, or solo survival on a deadly mountain, 1 to 6 players, 40 to 180 minutes. Again, we have a really wide range there. It looks like it's area majority and influence, cooperative, dice rolling, grid movement, network, and route building. Interesting. Okay. And there are the different modes. So competitive, you race up and down. Cooperative or solo, you work together to overcome the mountain and survive. Interesting. I've heard that this one is pretty brutal. The 190 cards and 100 tiles seems like a lot to keep track of. This one I've been interested in on and off for a few years, and I always feel like I hear such mixed things about it. There are some people that love it, some people that are like, I don't know so much on it. But yeah, I don't know. If any of y'all have any insights and want to share those in the chat or commenting later on, let me know. I'm still kind of so-so on it, and I know there's an expansion for it as well. I think that has Yetis or something like that, which was kind of interesting to me, but I don't know that I would necessarily get a game just because it has an expansion that seems interesting. Oh, Teams, Insanity, and Yeti, there it is. So, I don't know, I'd have to do a lot more research on this one, but I think the fact that I've known about it for a few years now and I haven't gotten it, I'm gonna go ahead and put don't want to try on here. Don't see Final Girl Santa's Workshop on the list. I'm out. Hey, listen, we had to cut the Christmas or holiday games because that's going to be a separate tier list. So, you know, it's a liberal list. I tried to pick just wintry, snow theme, whatever games, but we gotta save those ones for elsewhere. Okay, the next one is an expansion for a game. Oh, and it's not going to come up, of course. You're back. Okay, yeah, we'll get there eventually. So we have an expansion for a game called The Magnificent, which is the snow expansion. This is another one from Aporta Games. In the base game of The Magnificent, there is dice drafting, a little bit of kind of like worker placement, resource management, tiling, etc. There's a lot going on, but essentially you are doing all of that in order to build the best circus and put on the best performances. The snow expansion adds a winter component to things where you can get like ice rinks into your camp and get different types of tiles and scoring based on those. It also has some extra master tiles, which you can draft, and it expands the game up to 5 players. I will say that with a lot of expansions, there are certain games where once I play an expansion, I think, okay, I'm never playing it without the expansion again. I think The Magnificent as a base game on its own is really super solid. I don't necessarily need some of the things that the snow expansion adds, but the fact that it does add a 5th player and adds a lot of viable ways to get resources and some slightly new modules that you can add in, I really do enjoy that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one up as an A. Okay. And then we have, speaking of snow, Snowtails. I think somebody brought this one up earlier as well in the chat. So Snowtails is a racing game with some hand management. Basically, you have different cards that you're going to play to each side of your sled, which will be like the speed of your sled. And you have to manage how fast you're going with the dogs on the right side versus the left side in order to manipulate turns and not crash and bottom out. I am not a huge fan of racing games, but this one is pretty fun, I will say, and it's very concise. There's a lot of tight gameplay with your sled and your speed, and with the cards that you get. And as you bottom out, you get cards that will clog up your hand. I wouldn't call it necessarily a whole deck because it's just a few cards, but that does limit kind of what you can do on each turn. You can also, if you're going too fast, I believe, play a card just to the back of your sled, which is like your brakes. So it's pretty fun. It's like Heat, but cold and with dogs, yes. And I will say that unlike with Heat, where you're just driving in a straight line, I don't care what the board looks like, effectively you're just driving in a straight line. I love that Snowtails actually has expanded or contracted lanes based on when you're turning and things like that. And the modular tracks are really great. Being able to add in more or less trees for harder tracks is really fun. And yeah, having those dogs and how thematic it is with the right side lane of your dogs and the left side is really cool. So even though racing games are not my cup of tea, I would definitely put this one as a solid A if you're looking for a wintry, snowy racing game. Okay. The next one we have Snowfall over Mountain. Mountain? There we go. Oh, that's how we spell. So I believe this is the Pencil First Games from, is that right? Yeah, from Pencil First Games. And let's see. Once per game ability, solo solitaire game, and tile placement. Discover the beauty of nature in the peaceful silence of the mountains and wake of freshly fallen snow. Okay, what do we do though? You place and connect tiles with different features, find ways to earn points through goals and arranging animal checks, ponds, trees, and shrubs in your environment. So it looks like we get some tiles, we have some cards with different abilities that we can use. I do really like the art, very cozy looking. Okay. The tiles themselves, maybe, I don't know. Okay, these are all like component shots. So let me see if I can find a picture of the game all set up. Okay, here we go. This is what the tiles look like. It looks like they are just square or domino style tiles. The game that this looks most similar to is Sunset Over Water. So I'm thinking that this game, since it has a similar name scheme, is kind of similar to that. Okay, and we have someone in the chat saying it's similar to the Opolis games from Button Shy, but you have separate cards for your objectives or goals, and then you have the domino tiles. So I'm not sure. While this game does look very cozy, I don't think that it has the complexity of the overlapping cards and things that some other tile lane games like the Opolis games or Squire for Hire, Orchard, etc., some of Mark Tuck's titles have. I think I would feel like I'm missing that. And in terms of the components, I prefer games that are a little bit more minimalistic and innovative. So like having cards that have the scoring objectives on the back versus having a separate stack of cards and then a separate stack of tiles. I think that if I were to have access to trying this game, I would definitely want to give it a go just to see what it's like, but I don't know that I'm intrigued enough to want to buy my own copy. And since it's a solo game, I don't necessarily know that I'll get to try it because it's not necessarily one that someone would bring to a game night. Maybe a friend of mine or someone I know will pick it up and borrow it to me, but I'm gonna put it in the don't want to try list because I don't think I would be incentivized on my own to go seek out a copy, if that makes sense. It looks like it does a lot of similar things to games that I do enjoy, but I'm not seeing anything that tells me that it does them in a better, more new or innovative way, if that makes sense. All right, and then we have Snow Time. Okay, so this one is definitely like, feels a little bit more like a kid's game, but it's got kind of simultaneous action selection where you are going to have your little meeple. You're climbing up and making snowballs that you're going to throw at other players if they're like lower than you on the tree. Let's see if I can find a picture of the actual board. There we go. So every round you'll reveal your card and that'll show how high you're climbing up, trying to get dragon fruit and battling it out with other people that are on the same rung or one rung below you. It's just a little set collection game, and it's got some fun moments with the simultaneous action selection. Like I said, there's not a lot to it. I think probably the best part of the game is the aesthetic. Like the art for the game is really spectacular. The meeples themselves are really gorgeous, but there's not a whole lot going on in the game. It's definitely one that I've gifted to friends who have kids. It plays 3 to 5 players as well. So there's, you know, some challenges with that, but the bluffing element of trying to figure out which cards or what height each other player is going to climb to and having that simultaneous action reveal is pretty fun. I would say that overall, this one, I'm like between a D and a C on this one. I would say, as much as I want to be swayed by the art and the overall look of the game, mechanically, I think it's more closer to a D for me. So again, not something that I would necessarily play, but yeah, there's that. Okay, next up we have Super Slope. So this is, speaking of Opolis games, a button shy game with some tile laying. And in Super Slopes, you're going to be drafting cards that have different slope values. So one of the things you're thinking about is that, is altitude the right word or height? I'm not sure. But those numbers, basically, you want to be in descending paths so that you are getting like lower as you go versus skiing uphill. As you can imagine, that might be kind of problematic. And essentially, you are then laying out the cards slightly offset from one another. I really think that this one, originally I wasn't a huge fan of it. I wasn't very intrigued by it. It has the strange player count too of 1 to 3 players, so there isn't quite enough to play with 4 players, at least with the base game. But upon playing it, I did a solo party video on it as well if you want to see more in-depth gameplay. Upon playing it, it was a lot more interesting than I thought. There are a lot of tile laying games, and like you said, without having any overlapping or anything like that, I wasn't sure how this one would work. But offsetting the cards slightly and then having the routes connect from different edges of your, the card itself to form out your board makes for some really interesting challenges, because at the end, you're only going to pick out your best slope that you want to ski down in order to score. So this is a pretty fun one. I have not gotten to try the 2 expansions or a potential third that might be coming out, it looks like. I do think that this one's interesting. One of the things that is a little tricky is that some of the cards will have special icons on them, that if you get a certain amount of that set, you can do certain things with drafting. I have played a couple games where you get into kind of a bad loop with those, where there are certain cards that you can't quite get to. But overall, I think it's a really solid tiling game. And again, I appreciate that you can play it with 2 or 3 players or solo. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one, I'm going to say a B. It might be in the A category, but I also have an especially high standard for button shy games. So like thinking about if it was compared to some other games, I might put it as an A, but compared to some other button shy games that are similar mechanics, maybe, I don't know. So it's right in that A-B line of things, but I think we'll put it as a B. One expansion adds cards 19 to 24. Okay, good to know. I would definitely be excited about that. Take a look at Expedition Northwest Passage. Ooh, okay. I will definitely have to check that one out. Okay. If you have 4 decks, could it be all combined for Super Slopes or a different game? With Super Slopes, you have those different number cards, and that sets the card priority for drafting as well. So you couldn't have like multiples of the same card out. But I mean, you could play like solo and set up the decks so you have the same as everyone else, like a fake kind of solo competition-y kind of thing, but not in terms of like sitting down, drafting, and playing together, I don't think. Okay, the next one is called the Artic. Ice Flow. Ooh, okay. I wish we had grabbed these games part of the stream so I could have added them into the tier list, but I'll definitely add those to my list to check out. So we looked at Artic, now we're looking at the Artic, which is from Tatsuka Chuo, and published by Uchibukoya. So this is an abstract game for 2 players that has components that can be integrated into whatchamacallit, Aqua Garden. I blanked on the name there for a second. So these ones are, like I said, a little abstract game on their own where one person controls the polar bears and one person controls the penguins. So the polar bears are fewer, but you get more action cards and flexibility with your movements, whereas the penguins have more penguins, but you're more limited in how you can move them. And at the beginning of the game, one thing I love, which I didn't realize until I got a copy of this one and got to play it, is that you draft your powers for movement at the beginning of each game. So I think the polar bear ends up with like 6 and the penguin ends up with 3 or something like that. So you actually get to see how you're going to be able to move, but also get to plan, because you go back and forth, what some of your opponent's movements might be. And it makes each playthrough feel very variable because you have unique ways that you can move each game, but they're selected by the players. Like, it's really cool. I've never quite seen that in a game. Not that, again, I've played every game ever, but I like abstract games. They sometimes can get a little stale because you always have the same rules that you operate within, but the Artic really changes that up, which I really love. So, I really enjoyed this one a lot more than I expected to. I got to play with the polar bears, but I would love to play this one a bunch more. And this reminds me that I need to play it more and try out the penguins as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one. I don't know. I think I want to put it as an A. That may go down with more plays and more time, but I was really enamored with the fact that you can choose your movement abilities and that it is asymmetric as an abstract game. So easy to learn, really quick play time, but a lot of cool decisions there. All right, and before we move on to our last group of games, are the don't want to try games technically below F tier? I mean, no, not necessarily. That's just where they ended up on the list. I can move them up. Do we feel better about that? I don't know. I mean, some of the F tier games, I was at least tempted to try them at some point, as naive as I may have been. I'm not sure. All right. Another winter game, Endurance. Ooh, okay. Solo only Holland game. Better if you enjoy history and stories. Okay, so that might not be up my alley, but I'm sure there are some people watching who would love to check it out, and I will definitely take a look anyway. Okay, next up we have Last Aurora. Equip your convoy, fend off ambush attacks as you race to catch the Aurora. This is hand management, race, and worker placement. So another racing game, interesting, but with some worker placement this time. Okay, I've heard some good things about this one. This is another like post-apocalyptic frozen wasteland kind of game. I will say that it does not look super appealing aesthetically, but I am intrigued by the worker placement elements along with the racing. I feel like that could be pretty cool. It's also 1 to 4 players in 60 to 90 minutes though. So I'm not sure. I think I would need to have somebody bring this game to me and be really excited about it for me to be willing to invest learning it and trying it. It could be a really good game mechanically that just aesthetically really turns me off, and the playtime again really kind of turns me off. So I'm going to put this in the don't want to try, but with the stipulation that if somebody brought it and was willing to teach it and was really excited about it, it would be one that I would be willing to try out. But I don't know that I would buy it for me. Need to get Hannah on Dead of Winter solo only. Yeah, that's very fair. Then it just becomes a really challenging puzzle. It's kind of like that with Shadows over Camelot. When you play like 1, 2, or 3 players, you can play fully cooperatively. All right. And then we have Winter from Devere Games. This one is a little 18 card, I believe, tile laying game. They also have Autumn, I think, which is similar, if not the same. So basically you have your color snowflake. You're trying to make different areas and claim like these corners or groups of 4 where you can put your tokens down. This one, while I did like the theme and I was excited at a small box card game from Devere Games, they've really been kind of hit or miss. There are some of their games that I love, and there are some of their games that I'm like, why? I don't know, not for me. This one I believe is only 2-player, and it's about 10 minutes, so it's very fast, but I will say it was not my favorite when I got to play it. It was just very meh. There wasn't a lot going on. Is it the worst game ever? No, but did it do anything new that I really thought like, wow, as someone who likes small box card games and winter themes, this should be right up my alley? I was not a fan. So I am inclined to put this in the D tier, maybe even F tier. Ugh, I don't know. Will be... I mean, the fact that I am the target demographic for this game and I just did not care for it at all, I think we have to put it in F tier, unfortunately. Next up, we have another winter specific. It's in the name, Winter Kingdom. So this is based off of the whatchamacallit? Oh my gosh. Kingdom Builder game. Oh, Patrick Christmas Edition. I see you best at Star Trek, but we're gonna do Christmas and holiday themed games for another tier list. So I had to leave those ones out this time around because there are a surprising amount of holiday, Christmassy, winter, holiday themed games as well. I found when I was making the list. So we had to prioritize like snowy, icy winter, like the seasonal, temperatural connection of winter there. Okay. So we have Winter Kingdom, which, like I said, is based off of Kingdom Builder. So you have different cards that you're getting, and it's really like route building, area control influence on a wintry board. I'm not a huge fan of those mechanics generally, but I did find, ooh, that's way too big. I did find Winter Kingdom to be pretty pleasant. I haven't played Kingdom Builder, so I can't necessarily comment on how it is compared to just regular Kingdom Builder, but I've heard that it's quite better. I've heard that from several people who have played the bejesus out of Kingdom Builder, that Winter Kingdom is just kind of like the better version. And since I like wintry themed games, I was like, oh, bet I'm in. So although it's not a mechanic that I super love with like building up your routes and cutting people off and etc., and there's not much going on outside of that, like there are some different cards you can get that get you different abilities and what have you, I would say it's like a pretty standard game. I'm compelled to give it a C, and that's where we're gonna put it. No further thoughts. Unsurmountable, I don't think it was nominated. That would have been a good one though. Rip. Okay, and then we have, okay, this next one, I believe it's called Winter Queen. So winter's in the title. It has a cool cover. 2 to 4 players, 20 to 30 minutes. This one I've seen for sale quite a bit, and it looks very pretty. Oh wow, those are great product shots. It looks kind of pretty, but I don't think that there's much game going on here, unfortunately. So it says hexagon grid, hidden victory points, open drafting, pattern building, set collection. Those are the mechanics. It's an abstract family game where you take on the roles of Winter Queen sorcerers, creating magical ornaments out of enchanted crystals. Either place a crystal onto the board or use already placed crystals to score victory points depending on the spellbooks you and your opponents have. While I do really like the art and the cover, that's what attracted me to it when I first saw it released, I've heard that it is not good. Very forgettable, not good. Yeah, that was the impression that I got from reading through comments and things like that. I've also seen it for sale a lot, so that leads me to believe that like, oh, a bunch of people kind of got it and they were like, meh. So I'm gonna put that in the don't want to try, as much as the cover is very alluring. And then we have Winter Tales, which also has a very alluring, interesting cover. I really like this like dark fairy tale Tim Burton-esque aesthetic. So I believe this one came out around the same time, and I was intrigued by both of the covers. Or no, this one's super old, 2014, just kidding. 2012 even, dang. But it's only got a 5.7. And unfortunately, the rest of the game does not look as cool. So we have open drafting, role-playing, storytelling, team-based game. Okay. And this is kind of what we're working with. So it definitely looks very dated, not mechanics that I would be interested in, the ratings, etc. While I really like the cover and really like some of the art, I think, yeah, this ain't it for me. And it's 3 to 7 players, 90 minutes. That seems wild to me. There are very few games that play 7 players that I would want to sit down and spend like, commit to at least an hour on. So yeah, that ain't it for me, unfortunately. So we're gonna say that is a no-go. Also, why did my camera get so blurry? What's happening? Okay, there we are. Cool, sorry about that. So Winter Tales, don't want to try. Okay, and then we have, welcome to the winter board. I swear I'm not going to put like every board on everyone for these, but since we're here, let's check and see. Winter where is it? There are so many different ones. Winter Wonderland. There we go. Thematic Neighborhood. So Welcome to is a flip and fill game. Pretty fun one, I would say, overall. The winter board adds a couple extra little things like the little lights that you can have that you want to get into a row, which is pretty fun. Basically, you flip over different combinations of numbers and then scoring objectives. This particular one, like I said, because it's winter themed, I like it quite a bit. I think out of all of the little board expansions, the lights are easy enough to get into and pretty fun. Like, I wouldn't mind playing this on a first teach. Some of the other expansions I wouldn't necessarily play with somebody who's playing for the first time, but this one's like easy enough to get into. So I would definitely put this one, let's see. While I think the base game is probably an A for me, I think that this board doesn't add quite as much to it. So as the expansion alone, I would say maybe a B. And we did have Cartographers earlier as well for the Frozen Expanse board for roll and write, and we had the Fox Experiment too. Okay, we have just a couple more. So the next one is Winter Haven Woods. Another gorgeous cover. This one has like a lot of Instagram coverage as well. So there's that. Let's see. So it's 1 to 6 players, 15 to 20 minutes. Closed drafting, set collection, variable setup. So it looks like we are just drafting our animal cards, trying to get sets. Okay, and then they go into different like little wooded areas. Oh, there's a bunny. Oh no. While I do love the art and while I do love the overall aesthetic and theme, I will say that I had looked into this one pretty sizably and decided against it. If y'all have evidence to the contrary, please let me know, because it is very cute looking. However, it didn't seem like there was a lot going on there with the game, and I think, is this part of, I need to see their other games. Open Ocean I did try from the same publisher, and again, theme that I love, like, was really interested in. The drafting and like laying out of your actual fish just didn't really do it for me. So I think because of that as well, I was influenced about this game, which looks of a similar way and kind of maybe similar-ish mechanics with like drafting your cards and setting them out. Like, again, the art is gorgeous, but gorgeous art does not necessarily make a great game. So this one I would put, I don't know. Again, this is like on the line right between of like, I wouldn't spend my own money on it, but if somebody brought it, I would be more than happy to try it, especially at 15 to 20 minute playtime, and it can play up to 6 players. So we'll put it in the want to try, but that's a very tentative want to try from me. Okay, and we have 2 more. Yeti in the house. I also showed this one on the Japan unboxing stream of one of them, the only one. So this is a party game where one team plays as the Yeti and another team plays as the search party. And essentially you have, like, this is literally the whole game. This is it, friends. So essentially you have the Yeti, which is going to hide somewhere. Well, let me back up. The search party is going to place their peak, which is where they're searching from. And the Yetis are going to place the Yeti and the 2 footprints somewhere, take a picture of it, and put it through filters, obscure it, etc. Their goal is to have the search party from their searching point find and locate and guess the spot of one of the footprints while not finding the Yeti. If they find a footprint, the Yeti wins. If they find the Yeti, the search party wins. It's a very light game, like definitely falls into this is kind of more of an activity than a game, if you want to make that distinction. But I think it is such an innovative, fun idea that I haven't really seen, like using an actual photograph and getting to obscure it with filters like you're looking for the Yeti or the Bigfoot. I think it's just so fun. It's super compact, like it's very easy to teach. It's fun to have that team element to it as well. And it's fun to play it in different physical locations. Like, I like the fact that it uses your actual physicality, real life, to create some scenarios. So this one for me, again, it's probably not everybody's cup of tea, but I've had a lot of fun playing it, and it's something that's so innovative and cool that I've really enjoyed it. I'm gonna put this one as an A. So Thank you, Eaton Games, for putting out so many unique, cool games, because this is definitely one that I have had a blast playing, and just even the concept of it, I just think so much creativity went into thinking of such a fun game slash activity that you could play with a wide range of people. And last up, we have You're a Penguin and You're a Penguin Mini. Shout out. I'll open that in a separate tab. So, if you're not familiar, You're a Penguin is a dexterity game, similar to kind of like Uno, but with Rhino Hero Super Battle. So, you're going to have your sea of water and ice that you're going to then build up your tower, placing different gems and meeples based on the cards that you play. So there's like the, play this color, and then you have to match either the color or what have you, some component on the cards beneath, in order to build up the tower together. And you're trying to do so without knocking everything over. It's a really, really fun game. The mini version too is so cute. Look at that bar, and it's got baby penguins. And if you have both, you can actually combine them together. So you have the really big and then the really small ice cap pieces, which is pretty fun and pretty crazy. And also just seeing all the penguins chilling out, having a good time there. So I would say that like the Uno part of it is kind of meh, with like playing your different cards and matching them. There's not a whole lot of like strategy there, but the dexterity element is pretty spectacular, especially because the cards have like that hollow foil on them that actually makes them pretty slippery and icy feeling. So it's a lot more challenging to stack your tower or stack the tower, especially if you're playing with people that are being very aggressive in the dexterity part of things. It's a really fun one, really cute theme, great art. I believe it's getting a reprint, maybe under a different name, or being brought to the US/West. Maybe? I'm not sure. From Alley Cat Games, maybe? Is that a thing that's happening? I think it's called something else, though, I feel like. Let me look at the versions. So there's a new edition that's coming out called High Rise Penguins that it looks like is using the art from the Korean edition. House from Korea. Okay, interesting. So it looks like they made the Korean version Height House, and now it's being picked up as High Rise Penguins. But regardless, I think this is a really fun, cute game. Again, I know that not everybody is a fan of dexterity, but I think as far as dexterity games go, at least the original like self-publishing Happy Bob, the components are just top-notch, super love it, super cute. It has a great table presence to it. Even the miniature version with the baby penguins, I think, is really fun and portable. So I would say overall, I'm teetering between an A and a B here. I think mechanically, because of the kind of like strategy version of it, or the strategy elements of it is not as strong. Like that I would put down, if it was just that whole game, as like a C or a D. But the components and the aesthetic and everything, I think would be up at like an A or even an S. And then the actual dexterity part of it, I want to say is like an A. So maybe we'll average those out to a B. Is that how math works? Is that how it works? I don't know. But that's where we're going to go ahead and put it. Maybe an A. Okay, but like if I look at the mini penguins, then I think A. We're going to put it as an A. Okay. So there you have it, y'all. These are our winter-themed games. Or winter/ice/snowy themed games. But yeah, like I said, there's a link down in the description if you want to put your own rankings in to see kind of like where you would rank these games. Especially some of the ones that I have not played that I want to try or didn't want to try. If you have any thoughts about those or any of the other games that we talked about on the tier list tonight, please let me know. It was really fun trying this new format of ranking like a game theme. I feel like we got to talk about a lot of games that I don't necessarily have expertise in and hear from y'all about some of them, but also explore some games together that we otherwise maybe never would check out on the channel. And again, I do have to give a shout out to Noble Knight. So if there are games on this list that you're interested in trying or looking for, feel free to check them out. They're fantastic. They've done a lot to support the channel. And so if you want to support them with the link down in the description, it also supports the channel too. That would be awesome. But I believe that's about all the time we have for today. If you have any other suggestions of winter themed games as well, I've certainly added some to my list from the chat in the stream. Thanks so much for joining live. But if you're watching later and you want to show those or share those with us, we would love to see them. And last but not least, before we go, I want to say a huge shout out to our community members for supporting the channel. Y'all are the best. A lot of you also gave some great suggestions for games for this tier list. I will be posting on Discord and Instagram for next month's tier list, a little closer to that date, for our February games tier list. So if you have ideas or suggestions for those games, I'm looking forward to seeing those too. That's about all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining, as always, and we'll see you next time. Bye!